Hi everyone, and thank you for clicking on this video and welcome to our channel. My name is Haris, the general partner at Sigma School.
And I'm Derek, the founder of Sigma School, and today we're here to share our expertise with you and help you learn more about the world of software development.
Today, we've got an exciting topic for you. 5 ways to make money as a software developer for beginners. And we know how challenging it is to navigate through the coding world, especially if you're starting out.
That's right, Haris. So stick with us as we explore various career paths in software development and help you make more informed decisions about your future. Let's dive in.
All right. So the number one thing when you learn tech or coding, right, is being a software developer. Maybe I'll start by explaining what's a software developer because I have some experience as a software developer. It's a typical job, right? You have a salary that pays you, and then at the same time, you're given tasks to do your job, right? So it's very stable because it is a salary and you sign a contract for you to work in a company itself, right? So maybe like Derek, like I don't think you've been employed as a software developer, but you also have, what do you call that? Help me, help me. You have employed software developers. So what do you think, other than what I've said, does a software developer do?
Okay, a software developer is basically a coder, right? Let's put it that way. Someone who codes and solves your business problems. Business guy want to add a button, where does it go? Software developer. Lor. Business guy wants to add a payment feature, where does it go? A software developer. So you think about it,
Exactly.
a normal developer builds houses, a software developer builds software, and it's an asset that a business needs.
Yes, exactly. So from your experience and also from my experience, right? Okay, personally for me, how I become a software developer is I went through a coding boot camp and then I went through like 2 tech internships and I got myself a full-time software developer role without a degree. So from your experience, right, Derek, after employing a couple of like software developers yourself, right, do you think it's important, for people to get a degree, or do you think it's a very good indicator that this person will be a good software developer?
No, man, no way. A degree is not an indicator of success. And like I can tell you this, like people will pay for your skills. That's it. Right? You want to buy a burger, do you care if the person flipping those burgers have a degree? You don't care. You're just gonna pay because there's value out of it, right? So yeah, a degree gives people a sense of security, a sense of safety net, and that's all it does. At the end of the day, you'll be paid and you'll be hired for your skill set.
So I think nowadays also, I don't know if you agree, but now companies are actually willing to hire people without, degrees to become software developers, because right now there is a high demand for software developers for big companies, small companies as well, right? But at the same time, right, maybe we can share how much I've been paid as a salary and how much you have paid salaries for software developers in your previous like company. So maybe you can share how much you have paid for developers previously.
5,000-6,000 ringgit. I think that's what I've paid. But how much I've been paid, you can say that I've never really gotten a job as a software developer. Perhaps you can say that, but I have been paid to do a lot of software work, right? And these guys, they don't know if I'm the one doing the work. Sometimes they don't know, sometimes they know. But yeah, it ranges, right? From 5K to 10K to 15K. It really depends.
Yes, I mean, I should have gone to Malaysia and actually work, but it doesn't matter. So for me, I would like to share that my first salary for my first software developer job in a startup was around 3.1K Singapore dollars, right? And to a lot of people, it might be low, but to me back then was pretty high because I was earning as much as a degree holder, right? That was on average like 4 or 5 years ago. Right now, of course, it's like 5K, 6K. Of course, I think being a software developer in essence is like the safest thing to do. Do you agree?
The safest thing. I don't know if I agree with the
Out
safest
of
thing.
out of all the different things that we're going to share later on,
I can
but
I can say this lah. If you learn software development, you will not go hungry. That's all I can say.
okay, yes,
Go hungry. I don't know
exactly.
how much you're gonna make. If you want to make a lot of money, close 7-figure projects, definitely doable. Like for as a software developer job, there's always a cap to how much you make lah in a job. Of course, you can argue, Silicon Valley guys are making like 100, 200K USD per year. That's insane amounts, which I think it's a lot of money. If you're talking market rates, Malaysia, entry level 4, 5, 6K is normal. You won't go hungry, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree. Like in Singapore also, 4 or 5K on average of junior software developer.
Junior,
Yeah,
correct.
starting,
Entry
right?
level,
Yeah.
correct.
But once you go up, the crazy thing is that maybe the starting is not that impressive for most people. But the thing is, the more you work, the more you're getting paid, right?
Mm.
So I think personally for me, if you learn software development, to be honest, like on a general sense, on average, right, people will get a job, and that's where you start making connections. You get
Mm.
to know more about the industry. So I believe for me personally, software getting a software developer job is I would say the best way to just start your tech career. Maybe
Correct.
later on, you will try out different things, which we move on to number 2. So if you're a software developer or you already know some coding here and there, the second way for you to make money is teaching code, which you do in Sigma School, right? So Derek, maybe you can share your experience of a time where you actually teach code and actually earn good
Right.
money.
So I think the conventional path most people go through is to go through university or boot camp or something like that. You go through an education experience, be it self-taught or whatever, right? You learn how to code and then you get a job somewhere making 3, 4, 5, 6, 7K ringgit, whatever it is. Then you start thinking, like Harry said, you start exploring other avenues of monetization. But for me, I took a slightly unconventional path. I was self-taught and the entry-level salary in Malaysia for software at my last time it was around 3K. But after I got my finance job, right, the one that I quit, the one that I was offered and I didn't take on the job and I went and learned the code, right? That job actually was offering me 5K. So I'm like, to go from 5K to 3K, I was like, might as well not, right? And also, I didn't really have the confidence to apply for jobs. So my path actually started with teaching code. The interesting story is this: my friend from computer science degree came to me and I said, hey, Derek, so what have you been doing the past 8 months? I was like, hey, I've been coding. I've been learning how to code. And then he was like, what's a finance guy learning how to code for? I told him about my dreams about disrupting the space, building this startup, that startup, doing my ideas, running a software agency, all that kind of thing. I didn't consider teaching how to code. But what happened was he actually asked me, because he's applying for a back-end developer job, right? He was like, okay, since you're learning how to code, and by the way, this is a CS guy, computer science guy. So he told me, okay, can you help me with your interview, right? So I helped him with the interview. And then he passed the interview, right? But he failed the job interview, but he passed the technical interview. And that's when I started, coaching people on coding, teaching them how to code.
So maybe you can share how much you charge your friend.
100 ringgit per hour, something like that.
100 ringgit per hour.
It showed me that the money was there. So what happened was then I started my previous company, the Hacker Collective, where we started running sessions, a group learning sessions. What we did was we just took Code Academy, right, and Free Code Camp and asked people to learn together on the fly. That's what we did. Like I didn't create any curriculum. I just told them to learn there, and then we just solve problems together. Like a lot of algorithm questions, and I used to charge, I think it was 300 ringgit per month, something like that, for a group per person. Yeah.
Right. So like what Derek said, right? It's like when you want to teach individually, that person might only, take out 1 hour per week. So maybe if you want to teach and if you want more money, teach to multiple people and maybe make it consistent, right? Maybe 300 ringgit per month. So for me, mine is like freelance that I work for a company that, teaches coding to schools and universities as well, right? And then the range is as low as 40 Singapore dollars to maybe 110 Singapore dollars. And
okay, no, I think that's pretty market. I actually know boot camps in Singapore paying a 200 plus Sing dollar per hour, right? It's very normal. And like for anyone of you who's watching this, just know that if you are even a little bit interested in education and coding, and tell you now, the space is, wow, there's a huge demand for coders who can teach. It's crazy. The demand here is even higher than the demand for software developers. Let me tell you this, right? Because most developers, they want to code, they don't want to teach. So if you're someone who meets this need, you know what? Reach out to us. We want you.
Yes, exactly. So our email is school.co. Thank you. But yes, so the thing is that it's actually good, income, because other than coding, you can actually teach as well, right? So I did it as like a self-employed kind of job, meaning that I was just doing freelance as a full-time thing, right? And it was pretty consistent. And like you can compare to if you're a student, right, who knows how to code, you can teach for at least, 40 ringgit per hour or to 100 ringgit per hour, right? And that's actually quite a lot of money, because if you were to compare to any part-time job, they won't pay you as much as 40 ringgit, right? Which is a lot of money to a lot of people.
I think the first batch that I did, 300 ringgit per hour, is actually very cheap for the customers because they camp-like experience and they learn in a group and everything, right? They pay 300 ringgit per hour. And for me, back then when I first started, right, I thought it was a lot of money because 3,000 ringgit per hour, then I had like 20 students in one class, right? That's like 6,000 ringgit. Hey, that's not bad. That's not bad. So I started there. That's how I started.
Damn, yes.
That's why I didn't get a job after I went through a difficult time and all that. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So it's like, I guess like for myself, I'm more towards the path of, making a career, while Derek is on a path of making a business, right? So let's move on to the next point. Other than teaching code, maybe after being a software developer, you want to control your time, you want to earn more money. That's why you become a freelancer.
Freelancer,
Yeah. Maybe I'll just start for myself as a freelancer teaching code. Yes, you could earn money, but you can earn more money building projects, right? let me start small, right? Because Derek will give you big numbers, right? So for me, I had my first remote US client, right? He knew me from my YouTube channel. And then after that, yeah, it was just a simple mobile application. It took me at most 1 week of work and I earned around USD $3,600, right? I don't know about in ringgit, but USD 3.6 doing remote work. And it's not a lot of work to me personally. I think that was a huge win for me. So Derek, what about you? I know you have a
No, no,
lot of
no,
bigger
no.
projects.
Honestly, no. The projects that I have are mostly parked under what you call an agency, which we can talk about later. But in terms of freelancer, by the way, for those of you watching, the definition of freelancing means pretty much you get a project from someone and you do the work yourself, right? So this is a very classic digital nomad type-ish kind of lifestyle where you take a project, you serve them, and you live and travel the world. Sounds
Yep.
fun, right? In fact, that was my goal in the past before I went into business. But okay, you know, it's a longer conversation in terms of the pros and cons of a business and a freelancing thing. I personally am a businessman. I'm not a freelancer. But to share with you my projects in freelance, I actually don't have that many. Like Harris, it's not that big. My freelance experience was probably one project. That's it. My first project, and I took like I think it was 10K for like a small landing page, something like that.
So let me share with you what's a landing page. It's a
Yeah,
static
website with some
website.
forms. With some
Yeah, with
forms.
some
I
forms.
have forms. Okay, I have forms.
Okay, forms. Okay, great.
I
But
have
the
forms.
forms, is it embedded or
Embedded forms.
so for those who don't know what's embedded, imagine you have Google Form, but you just put it into a website. That's it. Right?
Yeah.
It's
No,
a
but you can just be honest as well. That project was like more like a family friend kind of thing. So
yeah.
yeah, which brings us to the next point. Family and friends are a good source of income as well if you're able to market yourself well. That's why, regardless of how junior or new you are, always just tell people that you're doing this. Then your friends, family, they in fact instead of going to a stranger, they will want to work with you, right? So yeah, so 10K, and that's my I think my only the only
The only freelancer, like I think either way more than me. But yeah, so
no,
yeah,
10K is lesser than 3K sing lah. Come
I
on.
don't know. I don't know. The
Yeah.
number don't add up. No, lah, but it's like we don't know how the conversion works. But anyway, so basically being a freelancer itself, right? Whether you get clients online, whether it's from your friends or family, you could see the potential of creating projects that can earn you, up to 10,000 ringgit. But the thing about freelancer, the cons is that you are the only person who works. So what if you have multiple projects, right? Multiple projects where you want to earn more, but you only have yourself. That's where we come to the next point, which is to run a developer agency. Maybe Derek can share what that means because you have run it and running it right now as
Yes,
well.
yes, yes. So running a development agency doesn't sound very cool, right? But I guess the difference between running an agency and being a freelancer is in an agency, your role primarily will not be the coder, right? If you are the coder, it's going to be very difficult for you to grow an agency because think about it, you need someone to close the projects, cold call, reach out to people, talk to them, bring them out for meals, build a relationship with them, project management, do the design, and most of the time they will only engage an agency when the project is slightly bigger, right? If something can be done by freelancers, usually it's very small size. That's why they want freelancers, right? After my 10K ringgit freelancing project, which took me like 2 weeks to get done, then I was like, you know what, freelancing's pretty cool. Let me try it. But long story short, it was actually not easy. It's not easy as an individual going out there to hustle for these small projects, right? So long story short, after that, I had like a small down one of like 1 month. Then after that, I started landing agency project. I got was around 50K ringgit as well, where we had to build like a marketplace style app, right? So I didn't do any coding myself at all, though I was in charge heavily on the project management side of things, the client management side of things, as well as the tech stack, these like consideration side of things, like the architecture of the code. So I managed developers in that,
Right.
and that was my first experience managing. It was a shit show, but
Can you share what do you mean by shit show?
a shit show because I was not equipped with the skills to manage a project. I was not equipped with the skills to manage a client. So as a developer, you probably don't have those skills as well. I'm going to tell you this: your first, project that is slightly big is going to be a shit show because you need front end developers, you need designers. The first one I had was really simple. It was like, oh, I want the website to look kind of like this. Just give me something and here's the money, right? They were very chill. But the agency project, since the size is a little bit higher, they paid more as well. So expectations is a lot more. So they want a proper whole design documentation, product feature list. You got your Kanban boards, your project management. They want weekly updates, these kind of things, right? Like every feature, you have to sign on it, right? Because if you don't sign on it, then you have negotiation. They're like, hey, I want to change. They're like, oh, change it to add money. Then he gets angry, that kind of thing. Most of the time, I'll have to manage both the developer and the client side of things. Because back then I I was very focused on the tech side. That's why I neglected the client side, and it was just very hard to communicate there.
So when running a developer agency, you cannot be a developer anymore because you are managing developers and you're managing clients in a sense as well, right? Because for freelance, right, you are the developer and you probably have a very small client, right?
Right.
Most of the time, right? But a developer agency is where you scale up, and that's where you need to learn sales skills, project management, how to, delegate work, and also like client management skills, right? Like you say, if clients want to change, then you ask them to pay, then they get angry. How do you resolve it, right? So all of these things are
If
not
the
being.
client don't pay up, what do you do?
Oh
Oh my
yes, oh my god. What happens if the client don't pay? It's like shit, how am I gonna pay myself or the developers,
right?
right?
In fact, the first one I didn't even pay myself a single cent, right? Out of the 50K that I made, I just paid a lot of it to my developers. So I didn't even make a single cent out of that, which is a
Damn.
good learning lesson. I want to say this: I am not interested in the agency life anymore. I just want to make it very clear to anyone. I mean, if you want me to come give me a project, in this big 7-figure, 8-figure projects, okay,
Sure.
maybe
Yeah.
consider, right? But I think it's very difficult. It's very tiring. I have to manage people. You know what's the worst part? Do you know what's the worst part? After
No,
you complete a project, what happens? You have no more revenue, but you still need to pay your developers, man. Dude, it's crazy,
exactly.
right? That's why
Yeah.
I've innovated on a retainer style business model that actually works very well, which I'm not going to talk about in this video because I don't like agency work. So if you like it, go and do it. But for me, I like innovation. I like new ideas. I like new shit, right?
And I think next one, I think Derek will be very excited
Yes.
because this is where he's
Yes.
planning to do, right?
I love
Which
it.
is correct.
Shut
Win a
up.
lottery. What?
What the heck?
So maybe I'll share like the definition of startup. What's the difference between a startup and a business, right? So business itself, like a dev agency, is that you need to make profits, meaning that you sell a service or a product, and then hopefully you mark up the price. People pay your service or product, then profit. But for a tech startup itself, maybe Derek, you can explain what's the definition of a tech
Correct,
startup.
correct. So in contrast to what you do in an agency or a freelancer, everything we mentioned in the past 4 points, those puts money in the bank today. The student wants you to teach, pay up right now, right? You want me to build a project for you, pay up right now. Okay. The thing with a tech startup is usually, so let me give you an idea. Let's say you want to build the next Grab, the next Spotify, the next Netflix. How much does Grab make off one transaction? How much does Netflix make off one customer? What, freaking $30, something like that, right? How do you fund an entire huge ass web and mobile application with all the AI stuff with just $30 per person? You cannot. It's very difficult, right? So oftentimes at the very beginning, you either have to fund it yourself, which is very, very painful, which I've done. I've burned a lot of money. Okay, if you fail, you burn a lot of money, or you can go and fundraise and also end up failing if you fail, right? You still end up burning a lot of money, right? So okay, in short, a tech startup is one where you need to put in the cash upfront first. It's innovating, it's building something new, it's not providing a service, it's usually building a product. So let me share something, Harris, if you don't mind. I want to share something, right?
No problem.
What actually brought me to the world of tech startup and made the amount that I burned not so painful is this little secret. Have you heard of micro SaaS? Have you heard of micro SaaS, Harris?
Okay, maybe you can explain what's a SaaS.
Okay, SaaS
It's not.
is
It's not
software.
sauce.
SaaS. So it's software as a service. So what happens is this: someone somewhere comes to you to build an idea. He pays you 50K, 30K, 100K, 200, 500K, whatever the amount is, and you basically ask him for permission to take that software and white label it and sell it to other people. What's in it for him? You can pay him a royalty, you can give him a discount, whatever it is. But the point is this: you build once, you sell to many, and your initial funding is funded by somebody. You don't need to fund the initial 100, 200, 300K yourself for your own tech startup. That's the difference.
Maybe I explain a bit for those who still don't understand what a SaaS is. So software as a service, SaaS, which is SaaS, whatever, right? It is basically a web or online service that you use software to build. For example, maybe a tool to schedule your meetings. That's a SaaS or SaaS, right? For me, I call it SaaS, right? And then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, meaning that imagine we build a scheduling app and somebody pays it up front. And basically white labeling, also another thing, means that you're just selling the software without a brand. So you're just selling it, and then the person can brand it on its own. Maybe the person will brand it as Calendly or Googly, whatever, right? So and then that person will use that software to build his own company.
I've
Yeah.
actually seen companies who fundraised on a private white label / private labeled product. It means they don't even build the product. They just pay people who has built the product and they just slap a logo on it. But they're very good at marketing, right? So it's crazy.
Another thing to point out is that startups, right, usually what they aim for is scale, meaning, right, depends on the startup. If you're a social media platform, you want as many users as possible. If you're a SaaS or software as a service, you want to have still many users, but you want more paid customers rather than free customers, right? So startup, essentially the difference between the startup and business is that startup will try to burn as much cash as possible to get as high of a growth as possible, while a business would just want to either survive, make some profit, and it's a slow growth. Maybe for Derek, like if I want to create a tech startup, what is the first thing that I need to do as a software developer?
If you want to build a tech startup, right, it depends on tech startup. If it's like deep tech, AI, that kind of thing, that you need like a very super expert that only like one guy in the world can do, then different story, right? Then the tech comes first. But I think for the vast majority of things, think Airbnb, think Grab, think Netflix. A lot of these companies, they actually don't need deep, crazy tech AI algorithms. A lot of them are actually just CRUD applications, right? So, which means create, read, update, delete. In the Web2 world, think about it, it's like a to-do list. Creating a Facebook account is like a to-do list. You know what's a to-do list? To-do list is something that allows you to add a to-do, edit your to-do, delete your to-do, and see all your to-dos. Everything is like that. You want to go and book an Airbnb, you can find Airbnbs, you can list your house as an Airbnb, you can edit your listing, you can delete your listing. That's it, right? So most apps today can't run away from this. It actually doesn't matter if you know tech or not in a tech startup, in early stage, especially. It's good if you're a technical founder. It's really good because you know how much it costs, what's the technical complexity. A lot of founders are actually not technical in nature because the most important thing in the first step in building a tech startup is being able to provide a product that solves a user's problem. That's step number one. I don't care if you know tech or not. You need to solve a user's problem. Being a software developer is irrelevant in this conversation because I've met a lot. I've been one software developer where I built my ideas and I'm not solving a problem. So like, yeah. So what if you spend 3 years in your room building this product if no one wants to use it?
So let's wrap up with all of what we have discussed. So number one is that most of us who learns to code wants to get a better job, right? Being a software developer, which in Sigma School, we also help in. And then secondly, once you become a software developer or you learn how to code and you're able to teach well, yeah, teaching to code is actually also a very good way to earn money. And then third is being a freelancer. And then number four is you want to run a developer agency. And lastly, number five is if you really want to make innovation, you want to create ideas, right, to have a huge impact, or you just want to have a lot of money, which is fine as well, then creating a tech startup is honestly one of the fastest way to earn money and lose money as well. That is the 5 ways that you can earn money as a software developer.
Whichever you choose, just want to let you know that I am open to work with all of you. Sigma School is always looking for great talents in development, in teaching, in doing software projects, in building your own tech startup. All these 5 things, they're all my passion, except an agency, right? But everything else, I'm passionate. If you have any questions or you need more guidance, don't hesitate to reach us here at Sigma School. We're here to support you in achieving your goals.
Yes, and before you go, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more great content about software development, coding, and more.
That's correct, Haris. We've got so much more to share with you, so please stay tuned. We're Haris and Derek from Sigma School, and we'll see you in the very next video. Bye-bye for now.
Right, bye-bye.